Hello, welcome to another webinar that SMS has been doing over the last year. I'm Martin, I'm the Technical Support Manager here and also lead the migration team as well. Today we're going to be discussing how migrations work, specifically going to Office 365. So let's get started. So as we always do when we start these webinars, it's just to SMS what we're here. We're here to help all our customers. We're here to help new and existing customers as well. We're here to walk you through the process. Every opportunity where available, you can pick up the phone, you can call us or open a ticket with us, and we'll be happy to help you. So basically today we're going to be discussing everything you need to know about Office 365 migrations. So this is basically where we can move you from one platform to Office 365. So basically one of the questions that a lot of people say is, what is a migration? Well, a migration is actually a type of project which allows you to migrate your existing email account, say from Exchange 2013 or an older version like Exchange 2010, or from an IMAP server, say you've got like a web server that you've got basic email on, and that allows you to, the migration itself allows you to migrate that mail and the contents of the data that you have from that system over to service such as Office 365. And obviously SMS are here to help you with that process. We offer a migration service to make it as easy as possible for you without causing any sort of downtime or worry regarding that. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. So the summary of the process, this is just a brief breakdown of the summary of the process that's involved, and we will be talking about these in more detail as we go through today's webinar. But basically, the way that the migration would be started was you would actually order, the order itself for the migration would be placed with our sales team. They would then check availability when that can be done and make sure that is suitable for a day that you're happy with. These are done Monday to Friday within office hours. We can choose dates in advance. Whatever we have available, we will book that in for you. And then on the actual day before the migration, you'll receive an email from us just to say, please be aware that you've got a migration tomorrow. It's just more of a courtesy email just to remind you, because some people do forget that these things do happen. So we send a courtesy email just to say you've got a migration happening tomorrow. If there's any problems, then please get in contact. And then on the day of the migration in the morning, it's normally before midday, you will receive a second email that just says your migration is happening today. You'll receive an email by 4 p.m. to say here's all your details. So what would happen then is, once that reminder email is sent, the migration team would start their work, and that involves moving everything over to Office 365. Once they have started that work, they would send a ticket to you to verify the domain if we don't have any access to your DNS, and then basically we would then transfer everything over for you, including your mailboxes, etc. Once we've done the work, we would then send a ticket to say, here's your getting started details, how you can access everything. We'd then move the data for you, and then we'd obviously confirm that's been done, and then typically after 5 working days your old mailboxes, the hell with SMS, would be deleted, and then that completes the actual migration itself. So that was just a summary of the process, what's involved. We're going to go into more detail on each point now. So basically the domain verification part. So with Office 365, the domain itself, it's your domain like abc.com, for example, that domain has to be verified with Office 365. Microsoft requires all domains to be verified, and the reason for this is because you have to prove that you own the domain. Because you do get situations where people will add google.com and they'll think that they own it and they don't. So the reason why the domain verification is there is so Microsoft can prove you own the domain. Now, to prove that you own the domain, you have to add what's known as a TXT record. Now, I know this is quite technical for some people that probably don't understand DNS, but all this basically is like a label. It's a string of letters and numbers, and you add that to your domain, and that verifies that you're the owner of that domain. Now, if your domain is managed with us ourselves, so you register your domain through us, or you point your domain to us and we manage the DNS for you, then we do all that for you, so you don't need to worry about that. If it's external with another provider, then we will send you the records to add. But if you do have problems, the best thing to do, if if it's at all possible, is to give us access to your DNS, because if you do that, it makes it a lot easier and a lot less stressful for the end user itself in making sure these changes can happen. The problem with DNS is if you get it wrong, especially when you start doing MX records, it can actually stop the email working altogether, and in some occasions it can take a couple of days to rectify itself. So obviously we don't want that to happen. We want to make it as easy as possible and less stressful for you. So we do ask, where possible, you can give us access to your DNS. I know in some situations that isn't going to happen because for privacy reasons, etc. But where possible, if you give us access, then we can basically we could do that for you. If not, we provide the information to you. And if you need to get your host to contact us to verify it, for example, then that's fine. That's not a problem at all. So the existing setup and transfer stage is basically where the migration team start their work. Now, this process can take anything from half an hour to 4 hours, depending on the work that's involved in carrying out. So if you've only got a couple of mailboxes, it's a lot quicker. But if you've got, several, like 50 plus, for example, that does take a lot longer. We do mass import them if it's over a certain amount of mailboxes. But if you've got things like a lot of aliases, which are secondary addresses to your email address, or groups or external contacts, then it will take us a bit of time to get them created for you, because we're getting an empty account on 365 and we're populating that with your existing setup that you have. If you are an UltraVault user, we will transfer the rules over so that's the journal rules for UltraVault to work. So your email will still be sent to the UltraVault, so it will still be archived for in and outbound mail whilst the migration is going through. That will then, so you won't lose anything part of the actual transfer itself. The migration team will be in contact if there's any problems. So if there's any issues with anything to do with the accounts or the domain or whatever, they will contact you. They would normally call you, because obviously they will send an email, but they'll normally call you if it's urgent, because obviously we need to get hold of someone to get it rectified so the migration isn't delayed, basically. So the next stage, once the work's been carried out, this is the bit where you'd receive the email by 4 p.m. A lot of migrations that we do, you normally get it a lot sooner, before 4 p.m. Sometimes it's longer. We roughly are doing 4 a day, Monday to Friday, depending on the size of them. It depends when you'll get the mail, when the work's completed. But the end user configuration is the part where you will have to step in and do the bits that you need to do your end, because obviously we physically can't do them because we're not there. Now, basically, this will involve any DNS changes if applicable. So as mentioned earlier, if the DNS is with SMS, we make them changes for you without any, so you don't need to worry about it. If we have your login details that you provided us, we will also make the changes for you. But if you're unable to give us access to the domain, we will provide you a CSV, so like an Excel CSV file, which contains all the records that you need to add. And it is effectively a copy and paste exercise. So it's literally removing the existing MX records and SRV record that you've got and copy and pasting the 10 Office 365 records that you need for the service to work. Also included on the email that we send you will include a getting started section, and this basically will cover what you need to do in order to access your account. All Office 365 accounts that have been created within the last 2 months now get a temporary password, and in order to actually use the account, you have to sign into webmail first, or the Office 365 portal, with the temporary password that we provide you in the email. Because when you sign in with a temporary password, it will ask you to update that to something more secure. Once you've updated your password in Office 365, the account is active. Obviously, with DNS changes going through, they can take time. Depending on provider, it can be up to 48 hours in worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I've seen them update within an hour. So it depends on that. But the activation of the account effectively means that the account's been logged into, the password's been changed, and it's ready to be set up. You can only set it up in Outlook or on your phone, once you've logged into the portal or webmail and changed that temporary password, it won't let you set it up any other way without changing that password. Also, in the email that we send, we'll cover the setup information that you need, and that's how to configure it in Outlook for Windows, Mac, iPhone, Android, how to download Office if you've got an Office package with the downloads for both Mac and PC. It will also cover how you access webmail as well, because whilst the migration is going through, basically when you set up everything, there's obviously a stage that we'll be discussing shortly where your data gets migrated. So you can actually have your old mailbox still open, and you can have webmail open on 365, and when it starts receiving mail, you then know it's ready to set the account up. Some people do that, but that's like worst case scenario. Like I say, most cases the DNS does update a lot quicker, so you can actually, as soon as you receive the email, you can normally set it up. But there is occasions where that doesn't happen. You do have to wait a bit of time for it to actually go through. But you do have webmail access, and that's the best way to check to make sure your new account is receiving mail. You will need to inform all your users. So if you've got more than one user, you will need to let them know these details. So in the email that we send you, you won't need to give them the DNS details unless that gets passed on to someone that changes it. But you'll need to give them their temporary password and how they can access their mailbox with the information that we send on the email. We do ask that you do follow all steps that we send you. It's crucial that you do that, and that will prevent any issues occurring, basically, because we've set these steps out in a specific way to try and make it simpler for our end users. However, if you do experience any issues, our support team are here to help, so you can pick up the phone and speak to one of us, and we will go through it with you. That's not a problem at all. But like I say, you usually 9 times out of 10, you follow these steps, and it will go through first time without any problems. But like I say, we are here to help if you need anything. So as mentioned just before, the data migrations part. So the data migration part is basically where we move your existing data from your old system to Office 365. Now, depending on what account that you've got, is dependent on what we can migrate for you. So for example, with an Exchange account, a full-blown Exchange account, that our migration tool will actually migrate all your email, all your folders, calendar, contacts and tasks without any problems. It will migrate them all over. However, if you're using a POP or IMAP account, such as one of our basic accounts, or you're coming from, say, a web server type of mail setup, if you've got it set up as POP, then basically it will only transfer the inbox. Now, that is dependent on whether or not your mail is stored on the server, because POP accounts basically don't always keep the mail on the server. It's an old-fashioned protocol from the 90s. And basically, it was always set to download mail locally. If it's stored locally, we will advise what you need to do. We won't be able to use our migration service to actually move that, because there's another step that you need to follow. But our migration team will obviously let you know about that. If you're using IMAP, 9 times out of 10, these mails are actually stored on the server, and with IMAP we can move the folders as well, but it's not your calendar or contacts, it's only your email folders. So you've got like a you have your inbox, then you have another folder called info or help or something like that. It will move them without an issue, but it won't do your calendar and contacts. It doesn't support that, unfortunately. But we can advise, or if you have that, if the contacts are local, then we can basically provide how you can make a copy of them, basically. So that's what the data migration part is. It's effectively the way of moving your data from A to B, and we do that for all your mailboxes. So moving on to, this is still part of the data migration itself. We do have items that you can't migrate. Basically, this is because the service that we use doesn't support the ability to move them. So this is something you need to keep in mind. So basically, we can't migrate signatures, notes, mailbox rules, categories and colors, any customized formatting that you may have, local contact lists such as groups. Now these are a bit like a distribution group, but they're not they're not stored on the server, they're stored within Outlook. And we do get a lot of people that do have these. We don't have any way of transferring them, unfortunately. They're something that you would need to make a local copy of. We also can't migrate any local archives. So if you've got like a PST or an OST or an OLM, something like that, then we can't transfer them there because they're locally on your machine. And another one that we get asked about a lot as well is recent recipient list. This is the address in the toolbar. So when you start typing someone's address, it pops down in a menu. We can't migrate them either because they are local to Outlook. That is a feature of Outlook. Even though there is a similar thing in webmail, it's not the same. It stores it locally in local database files, and there's something that can't be migrated, unfortunately. On newer versions of Outlook, I'm afraid. And we also can't migrate any folder containing more than 100,000 items because the service doesn't support anything over 100,000 items per folder. So if you do have over 100,000 items in a folder, we recommend that you split that down into another subfolder. Keep it. I always advise people to keep it about 95,000, something like that. That's more than enough ratio for space, and then you won't have any issues at all. So they're just some of the things that we can't migrate, I'm afraid. So the completion stage is when we verify the data has been transferred over. We always do the data transfer more than once just to make sure everything is captured and moved across. Any errors that we do see in the migration service, we actually check and make sure we'll see what the errors are and obviously correct them if they are related to data. They are corrected. So we may run the migration 2 or 3 times. We definitely run it twice. We always run it at the beginning and at the end, but we do run it sometimes a few times just to ensure that you have everything and you're not panicking that you've lost something or something like that. But if you do notice something not missing, we can always rerun it again. It's not a problem at all. And also, if you've been migrated from our hosted platform, after 5 working days, as I mentioned earlier, we will delete the old mailboxes. This is just to tidy up the system basically and keep it clean. And obviously, if you have any questions about the migration throughout the process, then you can just give us the support team a call, and we can get that sorted for you. So things to check. This is something that people forget to check because they might not know, or it's just something that you don't think of when you're doing a move. It's like a lot of things. But these are just things to check that we wanted to put together just to show you what might be worth checking. So the one thing we always ask you to do is check the existing webmail and make sure that matches with your existing Outlook, because there has been occasions where some items haven't synced for whatever reason, whether there's been an issue with the network or it just hasn't synced for some reason. So we always ask you just to double check webmail, make sure it coincides what you've got in Outlook, because whatever's in webmail will be migrated. So that's how the service moves the data. We also check that you have backups of things like signatures and rules and any notes that you've got. I know a lot of people do use notes in Outlook. They will have to be backed up separately. Or any special customizations or add-ons that you use in Outlook, they will all need to be made a backup of as well. Take a local backup of your mailbox. We always ask people to do this, even though we do transfer the data over for you. I always advise people, for peace of mind, take a local backup of your data, just so you've got a copy of it. For whatever reason, it's always worth having more than one backup of your data. Any sort of local archives that you may have where you've archived mail off in the past, just keep them somewhere safe on your machine or on a pen drive or something like that, or hard drive or something, just so you know where they are. Make sure that you have access to the SMS portal. This is a key thing with the migration process, because this is the area where we'll be communicating with you with all the details, because we have to mail you all the things like passwords for security reasons. We have to send it through a secure portal for that. So basically, make sure that you can access the portal before the day of the migration. That's a key importance, that you can do that. And also make sure someone is around on the day of the move, because we have had some cases in the past where people have basically gone out for the whole day thinking it will just happen. And they're not aware that they have to physically do anything. So we always ask that someone's available, because there will be that configuration part that you need to do yourself. We are here to help you, but there's certain bits that you will have to do obviously with our guidance and our information that we pass down, basically. So I'm just going to see if there's any questions for today's webinar. Just have a quick see. One question that people do ask sometimes is there any downtime? There won't be any downtime as in regards to you losing anything, but the only sort of downtime that you may see is the transition between the DNS changes going from one platform to another, because Outlook, if you're still connecting to the old Outlook for the old platform, when the DNS changes over, that will disconnect, and then obviously your new mailbox will start working. But as physical downtime, there won't be any downtime. It'll just be that transition period where the DNS gets swapped over. But as long as you follow them steps that we send you, that will limit any issues whatsoever. So let me see if there's any other. So can you still access your old mailbox? Yes, so that is another good question as well. You can access your old mailbox whilst the migration is going through. Once you receive the completion email to say that it's complete, we then lock the old mailboxes to prevent access, and B, to prevent any rogue mails that may still go there, because that sometimes can happen with the way that DNS caching works and things like that with MX records. So that's the reason we do that. However, if you do need re-access to it, just open a ticket with us, and we'll just unsuspend it for you basically, and then you can have access to it. And then, but they still will get removed after 5 days. There is a bit of levy in that. We can extend it a couple of days longer if you need longer access to it. But generally, the majority of people, once the migration's done, that they're happy with the 5-day window basically. Is there any way to back up my old mailbox locally in case it goes wrong? As I previously mentioned on that previous slide, you can do. Basically, if you're on a PC, you can do it to PST. If you're on a Mac, you can update to an OLM file, basically. We will give you guidance on how to do that. It is straightforward. It's a couple of clicks, and it will export the whole mailbox to a PST or OLM on your desktop or wherever you want to save it. And then that is a complete copy of your mailbox that you can keep stored there, and if you need to, you can actually open them files within Outlook and view them if you need to as well. So let me just see if there's anything else. So anything that can't be migrated, yeah, as previously mentioned on that other slide, it's mainly things like signatures, rules, and notes, any customization like add-ons, that you might have in Outlook. Now, rules and things like that, you can export. There is an option within rules. If you go into Outlook itself and into rules, there is an option to export them. There is on the PC. For things like notes, probably the best thing to do, because it's just plain text, then you could just copy and paste it into, say, a text file or something and save it. I know it's a bit of it'll be a bit of a pain. You've got a lot of notes to re-import them. However, if you do an export to PST, you probably could actually drag and drop them, because then you can effectively just export them to a PST and then open the PST in Outlook and then basically drag the notes into notes. And you could do it that way as well. But realistically, that's the sort of the only things that can't be migrated. Let me just see if there's anything else to ask today. Anyone's asked anything? No, I think that's it. I think. So let's move on. So we always do this part in all of my webinars. Basically, how do we fit into it? So we've been here since 2006, and we've been selling mailboxes since then. We also offer other services such as domains and web hosting as well. We offer a lot of add-on services for Office 365. We are predominantly an Office 365 house, so we sell several add-ons that you can get for 365, such as explainer services and backup services, things like that. We are here to help you with any issues that you have. If you need to discuss any requirements, if you're a new customer, you want to discuss requirements, I'd recommend that you call our sales team, and they'll be very happy to help you go through the process on what requirements that you have and what would fit you best. But if you have any technical requirements beforehand, just give the support team a call, and we will be happy to advise what it can and can't do if you need to. And we are fully UK based, and due to the ongoing issues with COVID, we have been working remotely since last year. So and we have full access to all our systems, and we can help with any issues that you have. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching today, this webinar. Please keep an eye out for future webinars that we're going to be doing. We are doing them every fortnight, and we do post when they are on our announcement page on our portal. Also stay tuned to our SMS TV channel on YouTube. That has further videos and webinars that we've done over the last year, and you might find them informative and helpful to watch. But thank you very much for watching again. Hope to speak to you soon. Take care.